Toronto. VK on the beat. Check. I'm in Toronto where you wanna get the city love. I'm from Toronto where you wanna get the city love. I'm in Toronto like we wanna get the city love. My city love me back for my city love. I'm in Toronto.
Welcome to episode 1165 of Toronto Mic'd. Proudly brought to you by Great Lakes Brewery. Order online for free local home delivery in the GTA. StickerU.com. Create custom stickers, labels, tattoos, and decals. Palma Pasta. Fresh, homemade Italian pasta and entrees. The Yes, We Are Open podcast. A Moneris podcast production. The Advantaged Investor podcast from Raymond James, Canada. RecycleMyElectronics.ca. Committing to our planet's future means properly recycling our electronics of the past. Ridley Funeral Home. Pillars of the community since 1921. Canna Cabana. The lowest prices on cannabis. Guaranteed. And Sammy Cone Real Estate. Ask Sammy any real estate questions at sammy.cone@properlyhomes.ca. Joining me today, making her Toronto Mic debut, is actress Rae Dawn Chong.
Woohoo!
Welcome.
Yes.
May I call you RDC?
You may. And my girlfriend calls me RD, like as in the RDs, like in that restaurant. So you can call me RDC. That's fine. Yes, yes, yes.
I would say it's a pleasure to meet you, but we actually did meet once before.
Was it good?
It was amazing.
Was I kind?
Well, it was very recently. It was with our mutual friend, Mary Jo Eustace.
Yeah, we did. We did her coitus interruptus episode.
So, okay, this is where I want to begin. So I have like your typical notes and FOTMs, that means Friends of Toronto Mic'd, have written in with some great questions they want me to ask you. And I'm excited to talk about your career and some interesting things in your life. But I was just like, I'll be very honest with you. Like, I just got blindsided by something that kind of relates to the whole Mary Jo Eustace universe. And I'm wondering if I can kind of share this with you now and chat a little bit off the top on this
Let's
subject.
do it. Let's do it. Let's go there.
Okay. So, I was downtown Toronto recording a corporate podcast. So I was basically offline for like 3 hours, I'd say. Mm-hmm. And then it wraps up. It went very well. And I was kind of packing up, and then I turned back on my ringer, and I see I've got a call coming in from our friend, Mary Jo Eustace. Mm-hmm. And Mary Jo tells me, basically, like to warn me that her son had issued some kind of like statement on Instagram or something about X's and uh-ohs, which is the show we recorded the new episode 3 of, you, me, and Mary Jo.
Yeah.
And somewhere in here, like I'm tossed under some bus, and it says something about how I had betrayed Dean McDermott's trust. And like, I get this information and I'm like, wow, like, is this how Hollywood does you dirty? Like, you live in LA.
Well, it's a complication when you do something as extraordinarily brave as the idea and concept of X's and O's was. You're bound to have a response, a reaction. I was just reading today about the guy who directed Blonde, the Marilyn Monroe movie, mm-hmm. and he was saying that he's really excited about the fact that people hate him, hate the movie, that it elicited a response. And even though I think he probably isn't that excited about people hating him, I think that there is merit in terms of being self-responsible to a response. So I said to Mary Jo this morning when she called me in an absolute crushed, betrayed, hurtful place. I don't think she'll be feeling betrayed that I shared this with Toronto, but I just said to her, this is what happens when we stir up the water. You have to be open to hold. Everybody gets to react. And at this moment, her kids are reacting like they're on Team Dean. And Dean has got he has a team. And I just think it's kind of exciting because, this is what we do. We're human beings and we get to respond, Mike. I mean, it doesn't surprise me that the show X's and O's would elicit such a strong reaction. But are we surprised? I mean, it's a dynamic of family. It's a divorced, it's a split thing. They're going to take sides. They're going to do what they're going to do. And Mary Jo is an accomplished, beautiful woman, and I think that that's challenging for a lot of people. And a lot of people, it's like witch burning. A lot of people take the side of the victim, and I think that I'm just going to say it because I'm on Team MJ. I think Dean's like an expert victim, but that's me. So obviously, I've taken a side.
Well, okay, we all bring our biases to the table, right? And you are friends of MJ, so there will be a little bias there. But I actually liked MJ and Dean equally. So I feel like,
yeah, for sure.
Like I come up through the middle. I legit, and I'm telling you, I'm going to call you Rae Dawn. I'm like, I don't know, RDC. But...
I don't think that. I think Dean's reaction is absolutely in line in vibratory. He's vibrating exactly where you would expect him to vibrate, which is, I don't know that he does a lot of work on himself. And I'm not sure that he even, when he said yes to doing the X's and O's, that he really understood the depth that it was going to go to. So I think in a way, I think he's absolutely behaving like you would expect someone like Dean to behave.
But Rae Dawn, it got deep awfully quick. Like episode 1 got heavy, and we did record 11 episodes over 3 months. Like this wasn't like,
you're just
like something happened.
I think there's a lot of familial pressure. A lot of times the spouses don't really like it when it's jamming. Sure. So I mean, it's like, let's face it, there's a lot going on there. I think it was too successful. Isn't it funny when something gets to be it kind of takes off, everybody else gets greedy? It's like when you win the lotto, your life turns to dirt because everybody sues you. Okay,
but so Rae Dawn, we just to catch people up to speed here. So Dean, we dropped 2 of these episodes. I have 11 in the can, so to speak. And I don't know where this can is, but I have 11 of them. And and then
in the cloud.
Yeah, in the cloud. I got the word from Dean that he's tapping out. He's done. He's done with X's and O's. And to my a little surprise, I wasn't sure. I kind of, when I got this news from Dean, I thought the project was done. Like I was kind of sad because I spent 3 months, 11 episodes, and it was good. If it was a piece of shit, I wouldn't care. Like burn it. Right. Like it's a gig. Right. It was good. And then
tell me why it was good so that the audience understands your pain.
We had, and again, I only am now getting to know Mary Jo Eustace and Dee McDermott, but it seemed like they were true, like they had their heart in it, where they were dealing with things that happened 17 years ago. And it became very clear to me right away that Dee McDermott had never dealt with these things. Like for 17 years, basically, he lived his life. He had, 5 kids of Tori Spelling, acted, did the reality show. Like he kind of kept going there. And I don't think he ever went back and talked about these specific moments 17 years ago. I mean, there's an episode, I alluded to it in episode 3 that you were on, but there's a moment where for the first time in 17 years, Dean talks to Mary Jo's mom and dad.
And says he's sorry.
And says he's sorry.
Yeah.
And they cry, and I'm in Toronto with my camera off, crying. So there's 11 hours of this kind of content. So when Mary Jo told me, Mike, I'd like to keep going, I'm just thinking like a producer. I'm like, okay, we have to do a few things. Like we have to take Dean's name off the title. We have to take his picture, his face off the picture. We have to change that theme song because he told me his friend recorded that cover and his friend didn't want the cover used unless Dean was part of it. So I just did a checklist like a producer, like a guy who's trying to create this content for the universe. And I just knocked them off. New song, new title, new description, new picture. And then you and I met Mary Jo on remotely there, and we recorded a new episode 3. But this news today, and again, I know I'm rambling, but I don't come from your universe. Like you're in LA.
Well, no. But okay, this is like a saucy hornet's nest of unexamined, obviously unfinished business within that family. That's the dynamic.
Clearly.
And it's kind of tragic, but can I just say something that I think is really true?
Cool.
And not to sound like a nutter, but I am, I think, good nuts.
Okay.
When people don't realize something, but everything is a test. And I think that you become a bona fide rock star master in your life when you can sustain and survive deep betrayal, when you realize that no matter if you have no one on your side, whatever your position is, you will survive it. No matter how rugged the betrayals are, you will survive it. And it doesn't make the people right. It doesn't make you right. It doesn't make them wrong. It's just that we as human beings in the human condition, we don't honor or respect or even expect to be tested. And this is what I call this a life test. And this is one of the rockingest, most painful life tests, which is when your kids choose the other, right. When your spouse, chooses your best friend, when your boss fires you for the moron in the, that you know what I'm saying? Like
sure.
When you get dropped, when you lose a job, when your film bombs, when you know what I'm saying? Like stuff happens. And this is like, I just want to say to everybody, welcome to living. And now we get to see what Mary Jo is made of, because how she responds in the next milliseconds and going forward is really what her mettle is. We're going to see what she's made of. And I think that it's hard. I'm not saying this is an easy thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying that I'm an expert at this or that I welcome it, but I just want to say, hey, welcome to living. When you stir up the waters, you got to be expecting to be hit by a couple tsunamis.
Wow. I have a scheduled, Zoom with, of all people, I have a scheduled Zoom tomorrow with Mary Jo Eustace and George Stroumboulopoulos, Strombo himself. And I hope MJ's okay. The way I see it now,
she's probably not going to be okay, but isn't that a good show?
Oh yeah, no.
I hope she brings it. Like, bring your stuff. I mean, seriously, how much do we in our society in 2022, we all, and I mean all of us, we like it to be nice. We like it to be neat and tidy. We like to see women fierce and empowered, even though we're hardly fierce and empowered half the time. We like to see dudes really like with their shit together and making all the big dough. And that's not always the case, as we know. We like to see, blah, 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 blah. It's just crap. That's not real life. Real life is ugly, messy, unpredictable.
So Rae Dawn, ugly, messy. Okay, so clearly there's a family that needs to figure things out over in California.
They're figuring it out. This is part of it.
Right.
Jack needed to choose what he chose.
Right.
Lola,
Jack, Lola, Mary Jo, Dean.
Yes.
They have a family thing. I don't want any.
Can I tell you,
this
is this is not the end. This is not the end. And how she responds to them doing this is such a reveal that it's going to, if I pray for, this is what I pray for them and for my friend. Mm-hmm. I pray that everybody sees what they're made of. I pray that everybody actually sits back and goes, wow, that's interesting. I definitely didn't choose mom. I chose dad. You know what I'm saying? And then she gets to go, how interesting. They didn't choose me. So guess what? You're free.
It's also strange. Okay, no judgment here. I hope they work it out. I feel though like I've been hit
Sweetie,
with some.
That's what we do. We judge. You can judge. You can judge.
We talk like this gentleman who. Okay, I should just say I've never met Jack. Never met him like remotely in person. Never had a conversation with him. I don't know.
Lovely.
I don't know Jack at all. I'm sure he's lovely. I saw him in a Christmas card that I saw.
He's gorgeous. He's beautiful. He's smart. He's tender.
But he's also like almost 25 years old. Like we're not talking about like a 12-year-old or a 13-year-old.
Right. We're talking about an adult male.
Right. An adult male, like almost 25. Okay. Mm-hmm. I feel like maybe I'm getting hit with like I'm collateral damage, and maybe there's like some shots ricocheting off of targets that are hitting me in the shoulder or whatever. Like I just feel like
Mike, I'm just going to say this to you. I'm just going to say, dude, this is what happens when you do a show called X's and OOs. I want to say to you, why are you so shocked?
I feel like
you didn't do a show of like kittens and bunny rabbits in a basket.
Okay. But it's not my ex-wife doing the show. I guess I feel like
in a way, isn't their story in a way our story? Like, come on. I mean, families are such a tricky little hornet's nest, right? It's always a power struggle.
Okay.
It's always a thing. And the more money there is, the worse it gets.
Well, stay tuned, Rae Dawn, because this, like, I literally just learned about this and I'm still processing.
I know, you're so cute. I love how you see, Toronto Mike, this is how sheltered you are.
Well, who's this guy to take shots at me? And what mistrust? Dean, who I always liked, I'm incredibly fair to Dean McDermott because I like him and I know he's going to listen to every word.
Why do you like Dean McDermott? Even though I
charming
don't know.
guy. Like I find him to be charismatic. We've had private convos. He's funny. I know he's kind of a dude.
I'm not against Dean. I don't even know him. So I think you can't hate someone until you know them really well.
Well, I thought we were buds, to be honest. And now I realize I'm not his bud. Like I only kind of learned that today.
I think that Dean is just very hardworking not to be homeless. I mean, I actually think that he's probably 3 inches away from the streets. But I mean, where do you go if you don't have a lot going on? You have 1,000 kids and you're in a volatile situation. Dean's he's on eggshells.
So was he a caged, tiger clawing away?
I don't know him and I don't know what the story is, but just from the outside looking in, it strikes me that he's always being tested. So I'm so shocked that you guys got 11 episodes.
Well, now I am, but at the time I thought we were going to get 111 episodes, like because he was so into it. But
this is the thing, you guys. Yeah. You guys, this fell apart because it was successful.
Rae Dawn, you bring this perspective that I don't have. Like I'm just sitting in my Toronto basement, like completely unaware of this Hollywood world, and I'm like, oh,
it's not just Hollywood. Come on, it happens. It happens everywhere. I mean, I was thinking about Meghan Markle and her best friend who lives in Toronto. What's the lady's name? She's
married to Ben Mulrooney. Yeah, Jessica Mulrooney.
There, that's not Hollywood. That was drama, and that was like spicy.
Right.
She got outed for being racist, which everybody's racist. That's all I'm going to say. Everybody has a little bit.
Are you racist?
Probably. I mean, I can be racist against white guys named Toronto Mike. I mean, I don't know.
I'm an easy target.
I'm being honest.
Take a number.
What?
No, I'm saying take a number. You got to take your shots at Toronto Mike. It's an easy target.
Well, can I just say something though? Also, I mean, let's face it. I mean, it's like you represent the colonizer. So I'm a person of 5 different ethnic groups.
Can you name them for me?
What?
Can you name them for me? Like these 5 groups.
Irish.
Okay, I got that one.
Native American, Native Canadian.
Indigenous.
I'm also Polynesian.
Okay.
I'm Southeast Asian, so I'm Cambodian.
Okay.
I'm Chinese. Oh, sorry, I have more. And I'm African. And I've got like 4 different tribes in my African bits. And then the rest is Euro.
Okay, so you find go ahead.
6. I have 6 ethnic groups. So just on my DNA and my cells, I have this I have an aversion to people who are colonizers, even though I've had people accuse me of, being not wanting to be my ethnicity. And that's just painful. And it may have been true when I was younger, but I've since been educated.
Okay, we're going to talk about it because I find this fascinating. And I will say I've had a guest. I won't name names, but astute listeners can probably guess. But I've absolutely had a guest who I'm certain she was triggered by my white skin and blue eyes. And you can listen back and you'll tell me. In fact, I might send you the link and see if you have a little time to read it. But I'm certain. And this person was really, really mean to me during a conversation. And I was like, why is this woman I'm so excited to talk to hating me right now? I really didn't understand. But I think...
Well, I'll tell you something. I have a friend. I'm really good friends with somebody who is best friends with somebody who was so offensively racist. And I have had holidays with this particular person, and I have been around her when she's been slam drunk, and just it all comes out. And so how I have dealt with it is that I don't judge my best friend because you can love someone and have nothing politically in common with them. You can love someone I have relatives that I grew up with that were completely racist, N-word racist, but they were uncles and aunts. And, what do? You can't educate the uneducated. You can't educate the uneducated if you're a child.
Right.
So, everyone's complicated. I try not to be a bigot against bigotry, but we're in such a strange time right now. And with the actually today I tweeted that I think Ye may not read. And everyone's like, well, he went to college, but that doesn't mean he reads. Like, I don't think people who
what are you basing that on? Like, you're just wondering aloud if maybe...
I'm just thinking he must not be a reader because you can't know all the things about about the Nazis and then sit there and say that Hitler was a cool guy. I mean, I don't know that it's humanly possible to see all the information and know all the history and still say the stuff. So I think if you're ignorant and you don't read and you don't care about history, then you can, do that. And I think that I don't think he reads. I think he may not read, period.
What would you say to somebody who said he can't be a Nazi because he is black?
I'd say they're fucking morons. Sorry. I mean, that's dumb. You can be a Nazi and a moron and racist, and you can be somebody who reads and be racist. I mean, he's showing us that you can have all the money in the world and not be surrounded by anybody who's on your side. I mean, this is a tragedy. This is a tragedy, not just for the community, the black community who are looking at him going, what's wrong with you? But this is a tragedy, we're in this dark, dirty, ugly, it's the preamble before we see indictments flowing, and we're just about to get them. So, yeah.
And that. All right, let's use that as our starting point here. Like, that was sort of like the red carpet show, the preamble, which I love, and I love the way you think. Like, I just totally dig. Do
you really love the way I think, Mike? Because I sometimes wonder. No, I'm just kidding.
I don't know you well I'm already on the defensive here, so I'm going to let you know this is our second.
It's okay that you were born, the majority, and
it's not my fault, right? Like,
no, well, we don't know that. It could.
What do you mean? Okay,
because I feel like I chose I feel like my soul said, yeah, bring me in a female mixed, make it complicated. Because we like excitement. Okay, go ahead.
I don't think I chose. If I chose, I really didn't. I don't have any memory of this, of course. But that
doesn't mean it didn't happen.
No, it doesn't mean it didn't happen. But so where do we find you today? Just to set this up, like you're in California.
I'm in Los Angeles.
L.A. I've heard of that. Okay. LA. And you having a good day? I mean, we've talked about, MJ's got some troubles.
It's gorgeous. But... I mean, the thing is, I have my dog on my own. My boyfriend's on a little mini tour. So I have a 100-pound pit bull who's just like, it's like having a dragon, and I love him. But I find myself doing a lot of outside, which I like. And I'm good. I'm going to play a last match, I think, of the season in my tennis team on Friday. Today, Nick Bollettieri passed, and I really loved Nick Bollettieri. He's one of the top trainers. He, as he says, I coach 10 top 10. He was just like this cool entity of tennis. He was this icon, and he passed today. So
I'm sorry, I had no idea. My condolences. I had no idea.
And then I'm really stoked that Canada won Davis Cup the first time in 109 years. I mean, that's just beyond fantastic, because being a tennis head, I love that.
And who would have thought that back in the day we had so few hopefuls in the solo tennis? It's just amazing.
And now
that
we're just
so far.
Busting with talent. Thank you. Sharapov. What is his name? Shapovalov. And then, how do you say his name?
Shapovalov? Felix
Auger-Aliassime. Felix Auger-Aliassime. And he's just gorgeous. And then Shapovalov is amazing. His backhand just like freaks me out. I love it so much.
I love that you're a tennis fan. This is
I'm completely obsessed.
Okay. I've got tennis freaks, and I didn't know the Davis Cup was happening, and I wonder, like, how big a deal can this be if I didn't know it happened?
Well, right. Like one hand clapping in the forest.
But we were distracted because Canada made its first World Cup of soccer since 1986. Wow. So this whole country was focused on, I never say it right, Qatar?
Qatar.
Yeah, Dave Hodge.
It's Qatar.
Qatar.
I don't think it's Qatar.
Okay. So we were focused on Qatar. And meanwhile, there's this Davis Cup happening, and we were just sort of distracted. So,
I know it's funny that football gets all the juice of the world. I do like watching football. It's just not as exciting because it's such a slow scoring. And I know I like results.
Well, and Brazil got 4 goals today. I'm just catching up because I missed all this, but apparently Brazil got 4, so that's not too shabby. All right,
so you were asking me what else?
You're Canadian. I want to get this.
I am Canadian.
Are you Canadian and American, or just Canadian?
Yes,
okay.
I kept both.
Okay, And my wife is from Edmonton, by the way, but you were born in Edmonton?
Born there. I was just born there. I wasn't raised there. I think I lived there once when I was 12 for 6 months, and it was during the winter, and it was like, yeah, we've had enough of it. This is good. I was like, this is kind of gross.
So where were you raised then?
Between Los Angeles and Vancouver and Vancouver Island. So I had a school year here from the time I was 9, because we went Vancouver. I was born in Edmonton, Vancouver, and then down to Detroit, Michigan, where my dad was signed to Motown. And then we lived there for 2 years, which was traumatizing. And then we moved so from 7 to 9, I was in transit, and we landed in Los Angeles right as I turned 9 years old. And we've stayed. So Los Angeles since 9. And then during the school year, we were there. But then in the summers, my parents would ship us up to my grandmother. And she lived in Vancouver. And then we moved to the island of Vancouver. And that's where I had my summers. And, you never realize that living in Canada for 3 months saved our lives, because Canada's fantastic because it's safe mostly. And then you had a lot of outside. So I have this fantastic, healthy muscle for outside.
Beautiful. And let's not let's name check your father, because he's a rather famous dude. Who's your dad?
My dad is Tommy Chong of Cheech and Chong fame.
Wow. Right there. What's that like? Shout out to Canna Cabana.
It's funny what that's like. It had its moments when I was growing up where it was just the most crap thing ever, because he wasn't dad-like. He was just gone. He was handsome, charming. He was like a child. I remember when I met him, I met my dad when I was 18 months old, because he didn't know I existed, and my grandmother snuck adopted me, and then introduced me to my dad when I was 18 months old. And my dad, I fell downstairs, and I remember this, and I was on my back crying. And my dad, he was young, he was like 23. He looked over at me and he laughed. And I remember thinking, you fucking asshole.
Wow.
I was 18 months old. I remember being so annoyed. And that's how I met my father.
It's exceptional.
He was more like a brother in a way, because he was just sort of out of it. Gorgeous, charming. But he was always just like, I always felt like my parents were so young and not quite 100% capable of taking care of us. So we grew up feral.
Did you ever wish you just had like a normal dad who had like a 9 to 5 banking job or something?
A plumber. Yeah. Anybody who was just like there, drinking, cracking a beer in front of the telly. Yeah, I really did. And in fact, I adopted a Jewish family, the Bergmans, when I was 11 onward. And, Bernie was more of a regular dad, and Shelley was more of a regular mom. My real mom worked and was gone. And then when she'd come home, she'd be exhausted. So when I found this family, it was like what I considered more of a normal family. So I sort of self-raised myself in that respect.
Wow.
That's how I survived Tommy Chong.
So I'm sure we'll hear like little Tommy Chong sprinkled throughout here. But I have a question from an FOTM. Remember, Rae Dawn, you're now an FOTM, friend of Toronto Mike.
I love that.
And another FOTM is a guy named Jim Slotek, who he covered media. Like I think he covered like TV and stuff for the Toronto Sun, etc. But he writes in, my first year covering TIFF was the year of Quest for Fire. I met Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau at the gala. He wants to know, do you remember, and then I need to go back and find out how you got this role, but do you remember this big splash, as Jim Slotek calls it, this TIFF gala for Quest for Fire?
Yeah, I do, because he was my date. My buddy was Pierre. And my girlfriend, oh God, what's her name? She was so sweet. We used to hang out together at Cherry Beach in Toronto. Wow. She loaned me a mink coat for the event, and I was super pregnant.
Okay.
I was having my son, and they said, Rae Dawn, you're going to be with Pierre Trudeau. And I was like, well, that works. And we hung out and became friends. It was the best night ever.
That's like your whole life is kind of surreal, as I see you in the nebula there in your background.
It really is. It has been so extraordinary. And it never sort of gets dull. I noticed it's getting it's even more surreal, and it's growing, if that's possible, even as I get older. Like the other night, a couple nights ago, I was with Barbara Broccoli, which I thought was really cool because she's done so much with the Bond franchise. And I got to hang out with her. It wasn't a long time. It was like a half hour, but we sat together and I got to, talk to her, compliment her, because I really like what she's done with the Bond thing. And I think that they've done such a good job with Bond. James Bond.
Yeah, of course.
James Bond.
It's funny. I have a son whose name sounds like James Bond, and he gets a lot of jokes about it. But
what's his name?
James Boone. It's just
nice. It's like the Canadian version. It's James Boone.
We were taking a train to Montreal like 2 weekends ago, and he was going on the train. The guy's checking his ticket, and this young guy starts laughing, and he's like, "I thought it said James Bond." Like I heard that 2 weekends ago. So. All right, so Rae Dawn, how did you get this role? Like maybe help me out understand.
Here's what happened.
Give me everything.
I was just with Michael Graskoff, who was the reason why I ended up doing Quest for Fire. So they needed to find a girl who would take her clothes off and be comfortable with it, because you're naked the whole movie. And Vanity 6 was up for the part. All these hot little numbers were up for the role, but a lot of them were good girls from good families, and they weren't down with being naked. I wanted, at the time, I was up for Fame, but I didn't realize that I had a more talented singer in Irene Cara, and she got Fame. And she also had a lot of support from Debbie Allen and all these good people who helped push her through. So I was still auditioning for Fame and hoping I would get Fame because it was a much more dazzling role. And instead, because I grew up in Canada, we would swim naked, because growing up with the hippies, I learned that you swim in the ocean naked, but then you put your bathing suit on afterwards because then it's dry. And I always thought that was so logical, right? Oh. So I was very comfortable nude as a child. And then as I grew up, I still was comfortable, because that's what you should be, is comfortable. And so when I went for the audition, I remember it was on the lot of Fox, and Michael Graskoff was in the room, Jean-Jacques Hano. A couple of women from the office were in there, and they said, "Okay, take your shirt off and squat." And I just thought, okay. So I was 19, and I used to go skating. How Michael Graskoff found me. Cher and Helena had this skating party every Monday night in LA. And so I would go to this thing. I was in my teens, and I would go to this party, and I'm a good skater, and I would wear tights and a leotard. That was my outfit. So you could see everything. So right. Michael's wife, Aloma Graskoff, said, "Michael, I've got the girl for you. She's completely confident. She's gorgeous, da-da-da." So when I went into the office at Fox, they said, "Okay, take your shirt off and squat." And I was like, "No problem." I did it. And then I went home, and they said, "Okay, Jean-Jacques is going to go around the world and look for somebody, and you're high on the list." 2 years. Oh my God. It was like 6 months later. They still hadn't found anyone, but Jean-Jacques was not giving me the role. He was reluctant, but they didn't have a girl. So Michael Graskoff said, "Rae Dawn, you've got to come to London and do this rehearsing." He goes, "But you still apparently don't have the part." So I never got the role in Quest for Fire. I just did the role. And because of that, Jean-Jacques and I were at each other's throat the whole time. He was such a dick to me. Wow. And it almost ruined my whole career, because I thought, well, if this is making movies, then I'm out. I'm tapping out. Right. And at one point, he was so unbelievably French and horrible that I think I was going to leave. I think it was in Scotland. I was just going to go home. And Everett McGill, Namir Al-Qadi, and Ron Perlman, they said, "If you leave, we will leave. So you can't leave, because misery enjoys company." Right. And we were so tortured on this film, because Jean-Jacques has this really sick, sadistic side with his actors, that it was like the group of us had to do this together. I know it sounds so
it sounds so fucked up.
So fucked up.
Like we started talking about dysfunction, and now there's just dysfunction everywhere, I guess. But
dude, you had to be so strong to do this movie. And at one point, for instance, to give you an example of how crazy it was, I'm in Africa, we're doing a scene, and I step on a thorn. And I'm barefoot. The whole time I'm naked. Right. I'm barefoot, and this big thorn goes through my foot. comes out the other side.
Whoa.
The crew was so stressed, so overworked. I said, could someone help me take this out? Because it's really hard to unstab yourself.
Right.
No one could do it. They were all like, Rae Dawn, I'm so sorry. That makes me throw up. I mean, it was like, and I had to sit down on a stump and pull out this giant. It was like a Christ thorn. And I thought, oh my God, I'm stuck on this lame ass film with no one capable of helping me.
And that's okay about your dog there, because of course you mentioned how many pounds? 100 pounds? Is that what
100
we're?
pounds.
100 pounds. Yeah. So
Augie.
If the dog needs to be part of the show, let me know, because I'm loving these stories. But that's what happened. Right. There's another. Okay. So Mike Richards, he's a local radio personality, and he writes, oh my God, he says, I've seen Quest for Fire 50 times. He made a parody of it for the radio called Quest for Fire, the musical. He saw it live in the theater when it came out. He says, this is legendary for me. So basically, we're all like, and Craig M writes in, what a cool movie. I loved it. And
it's good.
But yeah, it's great. But you got a Gemini for this, right?
I got the, it's called something else.
Well, it used to be Gemini. Now it's like a Screen Award. But
it's the Oscar, but is it the Gemini? It's not, is it the Gemini? No, it's called something else. Yeah, I got the Best Canadian Actor Award. Thank God. I called it a butt head because it looks like a butt on a head.
What are these called? You should know.
The Genie. The Genie.
Well, what did I call it? Oh, Gemini.
Gemini.
Okay, Genie.
The Genie.
That's why they got rid of them. It was too confusing, I think. It's called
the Gemini. I mean, the Gemini's for television, I think.
Okay. You got a Genie.
I got a Genie, and it was really cool to get that. And thank you, Canada.
Do you still have it somewhere, like on display?
Yeah, I don't know where it is now.
Yeah. When was the last time you saw your Genie, Rae Dawn? Come on.
Can I just tell you something?
Anything.
I think it's highly unhealthy to settle in on any award at any level. And I think I don't do acting certainly not at this point now that I'm 1,000 years old, but I think that it's important to do everything you do for the joy of it. So not for the accolades. So even though I have a bunch of funny little things that people have given me over the years and I appreciate it, I also don't live for it. So I don't know where my awards are. I think they're somewhere. Well, I use them for book holders.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I have to tell you, I value my acting work awards as much as I do my little tennis league awards, because I have those too.
I'm excited. I know, I do a show with a gentleman here named Mark Hebscher called Hebsy on Sports. I co-host it every Friday, and he's like a diehard tennis guy. I'm just excited when I meet somebody who's passionate about tennis, because I just tune in when there's a Canadian in like a Grand Slam final. That's when I watch.
I know, right? Like, what's her name?
Bianca Andreescu.
Yeah.
And Milos Raonic.
And her mother.
And her mother, right. And Milos Raonic, he was in I think it was a Wimbledon final like several years ago.
Yeah, he was good. He's tall.
And speaking of genies, we had Jeannie Bouchard, but she never kind of climbed the mountain, and now she seems to be...
I think with Jeannie, too, I think it may be past, but that had to do... There's an example of where everyone around you is saying, you're going to be, you're going to be, you're going to be, you're going to be.
Right.
It gets in your head. You can, it's called The Upper Limit. There's a whole book about this called The Big Leap. There's a level of mental stability that you need to go to the next level of whatever it is that you do, of mastery. And I feel like Jeannie Bouchard was given a lot of good stuff, but then I think that her support system was lacking, which is why she didn't have the strength to get through and tell people to shut up and get out of here and leave me alone and let me get to the business of making tennis. Because
one of the knocks I've heard, and I don't know how fair this is, was that, well, because Jeannie happens to be very attractive, like a marketer's dream, if you will, she was kind of maybe focused on a lot of peripheral things that maybe had less to do with the actual tennis.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Okay. She needed people around her to say no to a lot of everything.
Right.
And then just keep the good stuff, like and focus on the work and never to let anything go to your head.
Right. Okay. So back to this is actually about your dad again, because you mentioned Detroit, because you mentioned Motown, and this gentleman named Rock Golf writes in, I got to ask about her dad, but before Cheech and Chong, he was in Bobby Taylor and the Vancouvers, a Motown act. What does she know about Bobby Taylor and the Vancouvers?
Well, it was a band that my dad was in, and Bobby Taylor, who passed away a couple years ago in China, which is interesting because he'd always make fun of my dad and pretend to speak Chinese, which he would make up. And then he ended up dying, living forever in China. Isn't that weird? He would always go, don't like be really racist, and make these funny noises. And it turned out he ended up being Chinese. And dying in China. So what do I know about Bobby Taylor and the Vancouvers? It was a soul band during the time of the 60s when soul bands were the thing, and they were good. And Berry Gordy signed them. And then let's see, one of the famous anecdotes of that whole era was that my dad and Bobby brought this little band to Berry Gordy and said, you should sign them. And it was the Jackson 5.
Wow.
And it wasn't Dinah Ross who found the Jackson 5. It was Tommy Chong and Bobby Taylor. Yeah.
Well, this is a mind blow. Wait, slow down. So, because the legend is Diana Ross.
Dinah Ross did it. No, she just adopted them when they got there, but they were brought to from they were in Gary, Indiana. My dad right. And the band was on tour, and I think they opened for them. The Jackson 5 opened for Bobby Taylor and the Vancouvers, and once Bobby saw them sing, he was like, "You guys have to be signed by Motown." So he told Barry to bring this band in, and they did, and they signed him immediately.
That's incredible. Wow.
And so I met him when I was a little girl. Here's an anecdote. I was 7 years old, maybe 8, and I looked like a little boy. And we were in Bobby Taylor's apartment, and I said to Michael, "Do you want to go outside and play? You want to come play? You want to go outside and play?" And he looked at me and he froze. And I said, "Come on, let's go outside and play." And he just looked at me like he didn't know what to say. And I think it was Jackie. He said, "We don't play."
Oh, is this like a Jehovah Witness thing?
Dude, I just remember looking. It was like, you know how dogs do that thing of, huh?
Sure.
Huh? And he said, "No, we don't play." And I just sort of walked away thinking, my little girl brain didn't compute not being a child and not playing.
Right. Sure.
So they were never allowed to play. I mean, the guy was like a taskmaster. He was like this evil, horrible, You're
talking about Joe Jackson.
Yes.
Right.
And he just made those boys become so incredibly, like they sacrificed their childhood. And I remember that. I looked them in the face and they said, "We don't play." And I remember just thinking that is the saddest thing. So doesn't that tell you everything?
Well, that's an interesting observation because, he's famous for, they talk about, Peter Pan and Neverland, like he had some kind of repressed childhood. Like, so if you're, and I'm not the first to make this observation, but if he was denied a childhood, it may leak out in later years.
Not may, it does.
Right.
The soul needs what it needs.
Right.
We need to let children be children. Right. So that was one thing. And I'll tell you another story that I think is really cute.
I love it. I love it.
So I was little, and because Bobby Taylor lived in this high rise that a lot of famous people lived in, and I was obsessed with the Supremes, as a little girl would be. Come on. And I knew Diana Ross lived there. So I was in the elevator, and I saw this cleaners guy with all the stuff. And I said, "Where are you going?" And he goes, "Miss Ross's apartment." So I followed him into Diana Ross's apartment, and I went all the way to the back bedroom. And she had a mink bedspread.
Wow.
And I got onto the bed and started swimming in the mink.
I don't blame you.
And then the housekeeper said, "Who are you?" And I said, "I'm Rae Dawn Chong." And she said, "Where do you belong?" And I go, "I'm with Bobby. I'm at Bobby Taylor's apartment." She's like, "Well, you better go home."
Oh, that's funny.
So I got kicked out. Isn't that funny?
See, your life is surreal. Like, this is, it's wild. Okay, so I want to shout out
and then I set Diana Ross up on a date with somebody really fabulous, and we talked about that, but she didn't remember because I think she came in and actually sent me home.
Okay. Yeah, the Supremes were, I think, next to the Beatles.
The Supremes were it.
The second most hits, I think.
Love.
Sure. Oh, yeah. No, absolutely. We just did an episode on girl groups of the 60s, and they were number one of a bullet, without a doubt.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. Oh, look, I like a lot of the Ronettes, but nothing beats the Supremes when it comes to...
and I loved her. She was such a cool woman.
Yeah, Ronnie.
Yeah, Ronnie Spector. She was so cool, so cool, and she survived that horrible man. Oh my god.
Yeah, and then she comes in the, I think in the I know in the mid to late '80s she has that. She's on that Eddie Money song where she's kind of doing the "Don't Worry, Baby" interloping parts. Kind of like a little comeback there. Yeah, we lost her.
It's sort of not. It's nice, but you know what? There's so much misogyny in show business. I mean, in rock and roll, particularly. You think about all those background singers. They got paid. They got paid, but they didn't get paid. Right. And it's rare that you see the groups go, let's give some, royalties to the girls. But you know what I mean? Like, it's rare. And they're usually black women, and it sucks.
No, it sounds shitty. And I mean, let's face it, Phil Spector, literally a murderer. Like, this is he's
literally a murderer. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh God. Yeah, but he did create some great things. See, you can be horrible and wonderful.
Without a doubt. I mean, Don't Worry, Baby. I mean, just go ask the Beach Boys. Go ask Brian Wilson. Yeah. Like, he was obsessed with that I know that wall of sound. Right.
Yeah. It's funny. And the best directors are usually dicks. I mean, Quest for Fire is like one of the best films I've ever done, but it took a strip off me. And you hear about people working with these guys, these really good directors, and it's difficult.
Can I ask you about one?
Mm-hmm.
Steven Spielberg. Please don't tell me he was a dick, because I believe him to be a decent dude.
No, he was lovely. He was very sweet. He was like Peter Pan. Everybody just sort of, flutters around him, and he's like the genius. He's like the boy genius, and we all, rarely. I mean, once he wanted me to be knocked into a hole, and I didn't really think that was cool. And then I said, I'm not sure I agree with that. And it was like E.F. Hutton Speaks. The whole set got silent. They were all waiting like, what is she going to say? And he just looked at me, and he sort of, for a second, he held my little opinion. And then he said, no, we're going to do it my way. And it was like E.F. Hutton. And I remember thinking, oh, well, that was interesting.
And that's just, of course,
didn't go over.
How did you get the role in The Color Purple?
I had to audition and audition and audition and audition and audition. It was really a nightmare. And then they cut the role. It was like lame. I could have easily missed that party.
Wow.
It did nothing for my career. Nothing.
There's a gentleman named... Go ahead.
No.
Well, if you had something more to add to the Color
Well, I
Purple.
was just going to say, now they're redoing the movie, and I'm super excited because I think it's going to be so much better than the original film. Okay. And they're doing like a hybrid between the film and the play, and it's just going to be so much better. And I think Her is playing Squeak, and she's going to have a bigger role. It's just so much better. It's going to be so much better.
Okay. Brother Bill is a good friend of this program, a fellow FOTM, and he was on the radio in Toronto for many years on CFNY, the Edge, like 102.1 The Edge. I always say Edge 102, but it was 102.1 The Edge. Okay. This is what he writes me. Rae Dawn Chong is a firecracker. Years ago, she dropped by the Edge at 228 Yonge Street to inform me that we were incorrect regarding information about her father's arrest. So he remembers you, like you marched right in there, a firecracker, and you corrected the record there.
Okay.
Shout out to Brother Bill. That's
It doesn't make for, you know what the thing is? I've always been a big mouth, and that's why my sister and I were never molested, because we were always like, we were around a lot of like band members and weirdos, and my dad had 3 nightclubs. So you can imagine the characters that we grew up around as little girls.
Right.
And there were 6 of us, my cousins, my dad's brothers, 4 kids, and myself and Robbie. And we were cute little muffin girls and, sweet little bunnies. And we were around 3 nightclubs and drunks. And we used to play this game where the rummies would hold at, remember you called them rummies back in the day.
Right.
That's a Canadianism, but, and it's not appropriate now. So forgive me. But back in the day, they were called rummies, and we were little girls, and the drunk guys or the recovering drunk guys would hold out quarters, and we would grab them. And I mean, they could have grabbed us, but that was considered a fun thing for us little girls to do. And now I think about it, it was like, I'm horrified.
Wow. That rummies expression, I think Dave Thomas, he played a character on The Simpsons, and I think he used the term rummies in that, if I remember correctly.
Did he get arrested? Did he get canceled?
Dave Thomas is a sweetheart. He gave me like 3 hours to just pepper him with SCTV questions. So.
I love that.
No, he's a good dude.
Yeah.
And his brother's great too, Ian Thomas, out of the Hammer. Okay. You weren't molested, and I'm happy to hear that. But
no, we weren't molested. But if you think about it, when you're
Yeah.
sort of I mean, it wasn't like my parents didn't love us or watch, but we were kids of the 60s, and my dad was my dad, and my mom was busy. So I think we were unsupervised, really. So I think I'm amazed we're not dead. So I'm just going to say it.
I'm glad you're not dead. For what it's worth. You got to keep on living. Okay, to fight another day. Can I ask about your relationship with Mick Jagger? Because you're in the video you're in a few, but you're in Just Another Night.
I just got into so much trouble because, of course, I had my own apartment when I was 15. I lived in Los Angeles and Beverly Hills. The landlord rented the apartment to me because I was super tall for my, I was older. I was 5'8". I looked like an adult, and obviously the landlord had bad eyesight because he looked me in the eye and said, "You can have the apartment." So I got an apartment at 15. I rented myself an apartment at 15. And so I lived on my own. And then I was doing go-sees in New York City, hanging out with my friend Mackenzie Phillips, and I met him. And 1970s Mick Jagger was gorgeous. It was like Timothy Chalamet. He was so pretty with those big fat lips and that tously hair. And I looked like a little Moroccan boy, and we hooked up. And so I'm doing a podcast, and they asked me how I got the role in Commando. And I mentioned that I was in a Mick Jagger movie, and they said, "How do you know Mick Jagger?" And I said, "Oh, I used to, fool around with him when I was a teenager." Well, apparently there's no statute of limitation, which I know now. And I will say that for people, especially young girls that are trafficked, not to be insensitive to their plight, and I'm not, but not everybody is trafficked and not everybody is traumatized. And so at 15, living on my own, I was one of the most adventurous, sexually advanced girls. And yes, I was underage, but I had my own apartment. And so needless to say, I had discovered this fun thing called sex and got to meet Mick Jagger, and he was fine and gorgeous and yummy. And I was like, yeah, I'm down. I'm down with this experience.
I know. I hear you. Like, you're basically saying you knew what you were doing, but
it wasn't that I knew what I was doing, and I won't ever say that. And I was definitely a child, but I was an emancipated child, and I still feel that sex is a super fun thing to do. And I was underage, but I didn't feel trafficked at all or out of my league. And let's face it, all of the men that I slept with that were adults and I was underage, they were all immature.
Okay, but
I have to say, I look like a little Moroccan boy, so I think they're all gay too.
No comment from yours truly on that, but I will say that.
Am I going to get in trouble? Are we going to make headlines?
No, I mean, no,
yes, we are.
I just think that I don't know what age Mick is at this time, but he might be in his 30s.
33.
33. Like 33-year-old Mick is supposed to know better than to have sex with a 15-year-old.
And I don't think he ever asked me how old I was, and I probably would have told him.
But you said you look like a Moroccan boy. Like you clearly don't.
I did. Yeah. I look like a little Moroccan boy.
So you don't look 25. You know what I mean?
No. I'm sure. You know what? But let's face it. When you're a rock star, I'm amazed. That's what happens. You just things are brought to you, things are given to you. It's not like there was no in that world. Everything was, yeah.
So what Mick Jagger movie were you in?
I did his first solo video movie. Oh. It was called Just Another Night.
Big hit.
And then,
that was a big hit.
It was his hit. And then we did like this thing called Running Out of Luck, which was this Julian Temple scriptless thing in Brazil, and I'm the girl. I play slave girl, which is really annoying, but there was no script. It was just like, I don't know what we were doing, but it was fun, and I got to hang out with him. But by then we had been friends for a long time, so all that other stuff was not happening. But
how does this
Jerry Hall was there with us anyway, so he had to behave.
How does this lead to your role in Commando? Because I'm dying to know about Commando. I was in heavy
rotation on MTV. Remember MTV? There was a little thing.
Well, we had much music, right?
You had much music and MTV, and it was a thing. Like you careers were made when you were. Now it's what do you call that? It's reality television that makes careers, but
not as fun.
But it was MTV, and I was in heavy rotation with Just Another Night. And so because of that, I got in on the audition for Commando.
Is it true? Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was going to ask about there's I'm kind of prepping, and there's some talk that there was an interracial love scene that they cut out of that movie.
Yeah, I think we all agreed that it was stupid, because if there's a child's life at risk, there's no way you're going to have an erection. If your baby is being held captive, come on, man, that's gross.
Yeah.
It's like, wait a second, let me fuck this bitch while I go save my child. I don't think so.
But what was it like working with Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Well, I sort of am tired of talking about him, but because they always ask me about him, it was exactly like you would expect. I was young. I was in a small car with him for a long time. So it was fun. He was a bit handsy, but it was fun.
Remember, yeah, you're tired of talking about it. You've been talking about it for decades, but this is my first chance to talk to you about this.
40 years.
Wow.
Yeah, I now tell people, you pay me $100,000, I'll tell you anything you want to know.
Wow.
No, I'm just sick of it, because I feel like it's a little bit misogynist. No one ever asks, like, you're asking me questions about me, which I really appreciate. But somebody, I think it was Richard Gere, once said to me, they always ask you about your father. They never ask you about you. And I was like, he's right. And this is right as I was just getting off the stage from Dick Cavett, who was just asking me about my father.
Right. But he does cast quite the shadow, right? Because, I mean...
No, I don't mind talking about my dad, because he's my dad. But then now I got to talk about Arnold, or I got to talk about Mick Jagger, or
right.
why don't you ask me, what else can I tell you? Am I not that interesting?
Well, okay, well, no, you're fascinating. The problem is this is all part of your zeitgeist, like your story.
Part of my history.
I mean, Mike Rogoski writes in, great guest. She's terrific. Can you ask her what it was like working with Ron Perlman?
Well, see, that's interesting, because I never get asked that question. Ron Perlman is one of the best people to work with, because he never stops entertaining. He's like always on. So in this particular frame, we were being tortured by this French auteur on a film in very uncomfortable locations. We were either freezing or boiling. Always our feet were hurting. Always we had some kind of pestilence, biting us. It was vital to have a running commentary. Like those scenes when you see us running in the far distant, Ron is going, taxi, taxi. Like things that would keep us laughing. Excuse me, but my feet are bleeding. I mean, Ron Perlman is like a Catskill comedian. And so all I can say is that thank you, God, for Ron Perlman, because there were moments that we thought we're not going to live. We're not going to survive. We're standing in leech-filled water for 5 hours, and the leeches are attaching. And this director, we're not even in frame.
Wow. You had a role on St. Elsewhere.
I know. Isn't that amazing? I kind of haven't seen it in a long time, but yeah, I've been around for so long.
Like, can you see it? Like, I feel like those kind of shows, they seem to have like they're while they're happening.
YouTube.
Yeah. Okay. YouTube. Because
and also I was on Lou Grant, and I was so cute and pooky. My little tummy, because I had just had my baby 40 years ago. I just saw, and I had this long hair. I was so pretty. I used to be so pretty.
Well, you say that like you're not pretty today. Like I'm staring at you on Zoom right now, and you look amazing.
Thank you, sweetheart. But in that kind of 20-year-old pretty, there's a whole different kind of pretty. When you're 20, you're sort of flawless. When you're 61, you're kind of like less flawless.
That's ageist. Okay, Rae Dawn, you're being ageist here.
I'm being ageist against myself.
Your friend, it's funny because your friend Mary Jo Eustace, who we talked about off the top, she's 60. And she just took all these photos for X's and uh-ohs.
So unbelievably beautiful, isn't
with Dean McDermott. But she's got the skin of like a 29-year-old. Like it's kind of like
she takes care of herself as you suppose. Everybody does. You have to take care of yourself. I mean, I feel like when I go, they're going to say, God, she looks good.
Well, hopefully it's not for a long time. But here's Mike. So, yes, I have more questions, and some of them are going to ask about co-stars and stuff. But I have a question about your hair. Mm-hmm. When did you decide to let it be its natural tint, if you will? Yeah.
Okay, so one day I was driving somewhere about 6 years ago, and the sun was hitting it, and there was like 5 different colors of brown. It looked so bad. It looked like I felt like I looked like one of those like just one of those like silent film stars.
Oh, like a magician, maybe? Or...
Yeah, it was just like the sun hit it, and I could see there were
Oh.
like 5 different colors going on. And I thought, I'm fighting a battle that I'm not going to win, and let me see what it looks like. And so I just chopped it all off. I got rid of the chemicals. And then I also realized that I think dyes, the chemicals we put in our hair, I think they're hormone disruptors. I don't even paint my nails anymore because of it. I think that we ingest and put a lot of really highly toxic stuff in our bodies. And at my age now, I'm post all that hormonal disruption. It's just nice not to have that battle going on. Like, I get worried about, we're all going to probably get cancer because that seems to be the thing. But I just decided that I'm not going to die anymore. I'm not going to paint my nails. I'm just going to, I'm just going to take care of my body, try to eat as well as I can, not too much, fasting, just try to take care of this carcass. Because this last part of my life, this next 30 years, I want it to be comfortable. Like, I'm just starting Aikido because I want to add another element to my fitness. And I thought, Aikido, I'm never going to be good at it because I'm too old, but I figured I want to be a beginner, and I think it'll be good for my tennis, and I think it'll be good for my bar class. Like, you have to sort of, I feel like at this point you have to design your future. So that's why I'm gray, is because I don't like chemicals on my brain.
You're not going to die because you don't want to die.
I'm not going to die because I don't want to have a brain tumor. Like, I think they say Jacqueline Onassis died of a brain tumor, but she used really powerful, toxic black dye for her hair for years. And there's a theory that it could have been the dye. Something's going to get us for sure, but let's not facilitate it. Plus, I think that gray, sometimes I look tired, but sometimes I look at myself and I think I look amazing.
Well, I was going to say, there's obviously, not with me necessarily, but society has this double standard with the gray hair. Like, we had a big kerfuffle here in Canada because one of the big news anchors, Lisa LaFlamme, stopped dyeing her hair during the COVID-19 pandemic. And whenever, if you pick a guy, like name a newscaster guy, no one cares if they dye their hair. Like, so me, I could go, I got
fantastic. No, and that's it's natural. I'm jealous. I'm jealous of guys get to just like blow up, gray up, triple chin up, and everyone's like, they still look dignified. Women have to still look like Cupid dolls or porn stars. And I say, fuck that. I am sick of it. And I don't want to go out with somebody who wants me to shave my bush and try to be a 12-year-old. I think that's gross.
But you don't want to blow up. I'm leaving that there. But you don't want to blow up because you're a tennis player. Like, you got to be fit to compete in your tennis tournaments.
You've got to be fit. I was just watching myself in the Interview with the Vampire, and I'm wearing like a lot of clothes and stuff. And I'm actually getting, I believe, I just think I look really chunky in that show, but I have like 5,000, yards of fabric. So back in the day, the bustle, the breast thing, and it's like, you're damned if you do. If I had to be like, you have to be like rail thin to look thin on television. So I've never been thin except in Quest for Fire. Right. And now as I'm older, I'm noticing it's like, I got to be careful with the angles. Like, if it's under here and,
I think
David O. Russell, I was complaining. I said, God, I don't know if I'm going to act much longer because I feel like I look really old and fat. And he goes, no, Rae Dawn, you've got to control where the camera goes. And I was like, David, you can say that to me because you're David O. Russell. But if I go on a set and say, excuse me, move that camera a little to the left.
See, it sounds tough. It sounds tough, this Hollywood world of that you've chosen.
You mean aging, right? Yeah. It's, can I tell you something? It is tough, but you know what it really is? It's a world of fear. They're all afraid. Even the top huge green lightable executives, everyone's afraid of replacement. And I'll tell you something. I recently was with somebody who is the most powerful person in Hollywood. She's a super billionaire. She owns her name is Mickey Lee. She's Korean and she owns BTS. She is the producer of the best Korean films. She's just this little angel. And she's the one I found out reading her biography. She financed Katzenberg and Spielberg. She was the first one to make DreamWorks to finance them. But what was my point? she's powerful and she has really good taste. So unless you're an heiress or an heir and can come in with cake, you're always scared of replacement. So Hollywood is really this nest of frightened people trying to stay relevant.
By the way, South Korea got hammered by Brazil today, 4-1, I think. So, yeah.
But they're the prettiest people and they make the best movies. The new movie Decision to Leave is extraordinary. It's
I haven't seen it.
It's so good. And Parasite was one of the best films. I mean, these guys are really good filmmakers. They're doing really good stuff. I'm not a BTSer, but one of my godchildren is totally into BTS. And she's apoplectic in love with every single one of them.
Those who like BTS like them a lot.
Yeah, it's crazy. And Mickey Lee's really sweet. She gives the best parties. If I get an invite and it's from Mickey Lee, I am there because that woman knows how to put on a bash.
Do you ever find yourself in Toronto? Like, when was the last time you were in Toronto?
It's been a long time.
Like, there's nothing here to bring you here, I guess. There's nothing here.
Yeah, it's usually work. My sister lives there, Precious Chong.
Okay, yeah, of course.
She's a comedian and she's fantastic. She's doing a record, I think. She's doing a live record, comedy record. She's so clever. Yeah, nothing ever really brings me there unless it's work, and I'm always keen. I love Toronto. Toronto's good. It's always been good to me.
You mentioned music there, so I'm going to ask you if this is from Kevin Bailey, but I listened to the song and now I'm dying to know the answer. Do you know anything at all about the song by Alice in Chains, Love Song?
No.
Because your reference throughout this, it's not actually, I'm a big Alice in Chains fan. This is not a great Alice in Chains song, but Rae Dawn Chong is like repeated over and over again in this song.
It's the name. My name does it. I'm in crossword puzzles. It's the name. It's like three gongs. No, I've actually not heard that song. I've only heard a little bit of the rap song where the guy talks about murdering me.
Right.
But I've had a couple songs written about me, which I think is really interesting. But you see, this is another thing.
Yeah.
I don't think it's that healthy to think about that stuff because it's sort of weird.
But it's neat to have songs that reference you. No?
I guess.
I don't know.
I just think it's really important not to be famous in your brain.
But how would you support your lifestyle?
Do you understand that?
Do you
understand that?
Well, tell me more about what you exactly mean by that, because you're only famous because you've chosen to do work for money that puts you in screens and in people's living rooms and in theaters. Like, that makes you famous.
Yeah, but I don't ever bank on it. I never sit with it. I never use it. I mean, there are perks, and I notice people are a little bit nicer, or I'll get pulled over. Once I was speeding in a really souped up, fantastic M-Class BMW, and it was like 6:30 in the morning, and I was on the S-curve of Sunset, and I had Madonna blaring on the radio, and it was my then boyfriend's car, and I was just going as fast as the car could take me, which was really fast.
Yeah.
And I got pulled over, and but I didn't say I wasn't speeding. I just said to the guy, "No one's on the road. I'm driving this, and listen to what I got on the radio. You would do the same thing." And you know what he said? "You're right." Yeah,
because you're Rae Dawn Chong.
And I think it was because he's a Commando fan.
Right.
Sometimes it's just a fact of life. You know?
What do you think you'd be doing with your life if you never got into acting? Like, what would you be doing for a living?
Well, why don't you ask me what are some of my interests now?
What are some of your interests now, Rae Dawn Chong?
I'm obsessed with permaculture. I'm obsessed with city planning. I'm obsessed with urban renewal. I'm obsessed with trying to find a solution to our homelessness. I'm obsessed with recycling and making Los Angeles a better water catchment place. Isn't that crazy?
So what are you doing though? Okay,
I like farming.
Okay, so all of that you just said there sounds amazing, but even living the life is like the first thing you can do, but it shouldn't be the last thing you do. And I'm just channeling FOTM Diane Sachs, who was the environmental commissioner for Ontario, and she kind of, because I bike everywhere, I've got a very small carbon footprint, but she's like, that's the first thing you should do, but it better not be the last thing. Like, Diane literally ran for city council so she could affect more change. Like, what are you doing, Rae Dawn Chong, to affect change in this climate emergency?
So I have an RV, so that's a very big carbon footprint, but I try to drive it someplace and park it for a month. I don't drive around in it. and I don't take jets anymore. I'm not much of a pilot. So what do? I try not to drive too much. I do ride my bike everywhere that I
Good.
can.
I love that.
I have a scooter, a Vespa, if it's a little further than my bike can take me, or if it's like a meeting. What else do I care about? I recycle. I also compost, which is crazy. I'm obsessed with worms. I understand. I love the idea. I would love the idea of Los Angeles becoming I would love Los Angeles as a whole city to use composting toilets instead of doing our business in drinking water, which I think is really like the opposite of Dune. And I think that Los Angeles is more like Dune, and we live like we're in the Pacific Northwest where we have endless amounts of water. So what am I doing for I try to support more consciousness, and I am desperate, to I'm desperate for us to sort of overcome the violence matrix.
What's your dog's name real quick here, and then back to the violence matrix?
Augie's just a really spoiled Augie. Come up and say hi. Come on. Augie. Come up, show him.
Shout out to Augie.
Do you see him?
Oh, now I do. Yes. Wow, beautiful. Okay. Look, that's a big dog.
Dragon. That's a dragon.
I like because you blur. No, you have this background, so it's like there's Augie, and then Augie just like disappears like into the. I'm
gonna go do something. I'll be right back.
Yeah, you go do something here, because that gives me a chance to thank some of the sponsors of this program. So I want to say thank you to Great Lakes Beer and Palma Pasta, because we had TMLX 11 at Palma's Kitchen on Saturday. I saw so many great FOTMs there, and we all got to drink Great Lakes, which was delicious, and everyone got a full meal from Palma Pasta. It was actually a magic day. So thank you to everybody who came out. Somebody said there was like 75 people in total who came out, and that's unbelievable. And thank you, Elvis, for co-hosting with me. But everybody can hear TMLX 11 because I dropped it in the feed Saturday. I just want to say thank you to stickeru.com. You go to stickeru.com, upload your image, and you can get stickers and decals and temporary tattoos and all this great stuff. And they've been wonderful, wonderful partners of this program. You know, speaking of Tommy Chong and Cheech and Chong, it makes me think of Canna Cabana, because Canna Cabana will not be undersold on cannabis or cannabis accessories. They have over 140 locations across this country. And I want to shout out Ridley Funeral Home, pillars of this community since 1921. And Brad Jones was at TMLX 11, and he co-hosts. He's the host. I'm the co-host. Life's Undertaking. So subscribe to Life's Undertaking, and soon I will shout out a couple of other podcasts you should listen to. Welcome back, Rae Dawn Chong.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, did you want to explain that violence matrix here before I get to a few more questions? Okay.
So here's the thing with the patriarchy, right? In our violence matrix, it's been going on for about 10,000 years, and humanity has industrialized, has gone dominance, it's violence, and we've just crushed each other, and we've treated the planet as if it's this disposable thing. And in order for the species to survive, we have to switch up and go into what would be a healing biotope. We have to begin to live with nature and in a harmonious dance with nature. And then not only does it unleash and allow us to heal so many of the things that are broken, but it also, I think the flow, or there's what they call the sacred matrix, which will show us where water is, which will help us grow things and plants. It's like the universal flow. We have been so out of, I think, the chi, or the flow of the universe, for about 10,000 years. And we've just done it in this kind of, patriarchy, I'm going to knock it a bit, but it's time for the feminine. And I don't mean necessarily female, but it's time for the feminine to be more prolific and much more in leadership. And I think it will heal. You know, it's like, what's his name? Tucker Carlson talks about how the sperm count in men is really low, and then we have all these incels. And I think in order for the patriarchy to actually heal, it needs to relinquish control.
There's a lot there to digest. I got blindsided by the Dean and Son post, and I was processing it. Now I have to kind of digest this, but I will shout out Helen Tansey. I produce her show, and her show is called The Feminine Warrior, and she speaks much like you. I think she would love to talk to you now that I think about it, but
Well, I mean, this is the thing. I mean, did you see that piece on the Prime Minister of New Zealand was asked a sexist question in front of the Prime Minister of Finland, who happens to also be a beautiful woman.
Right.
And I think her name is Jacinda Ardern. And she basically just said, what do prime ministers talk about? We talk about commerce and things that about our countries.
Right.
The fact that we're women has nothing to do with the fact that we can find things to talk about. It was such a sexist question, and it makes you kind of realize, again, we're talking education.
Yeah, I mean, that's not a question a male leader would and to sort of dismantle the supremacy of patriarchy doesn't mean to destroy patriarchy. It doesn't mean to hurt men. It means to embrace. It means to integrate. It means to say, how about this? How about if we co-lead? How about if we cooperate? What's as a
I'm not just a feminist.
Right.
I'm a lover of all things. I've talked about it before. I love love. I think it's important to be kind.
Well, as you know, I was there live, and then I re-listened to that episode 3 of X's and Uh-Ohs, which you're on, and yeah, you love love, and love is beautiful. But me, as a white guy, a white straight male, cis male, like, what should I do? Like, I have to keep. I have to provide for my children. I have to keep going. Like, I will be your ally, and I will amplify your messaging. Yes, please.
It's not just men that need to reboot and upgrade, and that thing that says we're updating your system.
Sure.
We need a reboot and an update of the whole system. And it's not just men that need to do this. Women actually sustained the patriarchy because it's what they know. And women have a tendency to burn witches. If you look at the history, when they were burning witches, it was women just as much as the men that were pointing the finger, because people don't like change. People are threatened, especially ignorant people. So I say to people who don't know, instead of fighting it or saying it's wrong because they don't know about something, how about this? How about, that's interesting.
Well, in fact, this is a bad example of it, but I have learned to shut up and listen. Like I really do,
Or say, I don't know. God,
right.
That's interesting. I don't know about that. That's something I can look into.
Right.
Right. Instead of immediately going to the defensive.
Right.
Immediately. I mean, I will say something else too with trauma, especially intrafamilial sexual trauma. Mm-hmm. A lot of times the perpetrator is assisted, enabled by the mother. Because the mother's afraid for her core bottom line, which is, we won't have a house. Who's going to take care of us? So I'll look the other way. And so that kind of wound is huge. So it's not just the patriarchy that needs an upgrade and a reboot. It's the feminine, the damaged female.
Now, I know Augie wants your attention, but you still have a little more time, just because I don't want to leave these questions.
I do. He's just being a dick.
Okay.
And he's really spoiled because
I'm just scared of Augie because he's bigger than I am.
No, he just wants to go outside and kill things. Okay. He wants to go kill some squirrels.
Okay. Well, that's you can ignore him. His mom was in Commando, so okay. By the way, I gotta say, super fun, happy slide. This person's grandmother thought you were absolutely adorable when Commando came out.
Aw, thank you, Grandma. I was adorable. I was cute.
Oh, absolutely. Mm-hmm. And that's a big movie. I mean, that's a huge movie to be on, but okay. Phil Sounds, though, has a quick Commando question, since I brought you back to Commando. Phil Sounds, that's actually like his handle on Twitter.
Okay.
Bill Duke and David Patrick Kelly. She has great scenes with both actors in the movie. Yeah. What a great cast overall. So do you have any thoughts on Bill Duke and David Patrick Kelly?
They were both amazing, great actors. I felt honored. I still have a little connection to them. We're all on Twitter, so we support and like each other's tweets. But yeah, that was just a really fun high moment. I like.
What's your Twitter handle?
Real Rae Dawn Chong, REAL Rae Dawn Chong.
Okay, I am. I was looking for it, and now that I know you're out there, I'm a big Twitter guy. I'm going to follow Real Rae Dawn Chong.
Yeah, I love it. I check in every day. Even everybody's leaving because of Elon Musk. I'm going to stay.
Yeah, I'm staying too.
I really enjoy it, and I get a lot. I like it. I mean, I don't know. I don't get too revealy on it, but I like the fact that it's a good platform. You get a lot of information. I like it. I actually like social media.
But are you sure you're not Rae_Dawn_Chong?
Oh, that could be me.
Okay,
that could be me.
that's you. Because I think the real one. Maybe
Real Rae Dawn Chong is my Instagram. Sorry.
I'm following you right now. So this is an exciting moment. I'm now following you. Okay. Next question.
So it's Rae_Dawn_Chong. Yeah, because somebody took my regular spelling. Yeah.
But this is you. Okay, because it says, have you ever asked God, what can I do for you?
Yeah, that's me. That's mine. Yeah, because everybody always, petitions the force. But have you ever said to the force, what can I do? How can I do this?
The question, okay, so Mark writes in, ask her how much fun, and there's a couple people who mentioned this, so I'm dying to get the story here, but Mark writes, ask her how much fun it was to do Celebrity Family Feud. I know her sister Precious, her and Robbie crushed Family Feud. And just before you answer, Gare Joyce, who's actually going to be down here tomorrow, we're going to film another episode of every spring a parade down Bay Street. That's for the listenership. Gare writes 3 words, Celebrity Family Feud. Chongs versus Lakers. How could the producers find an opposing team who smoke more weed than her father?
You know what? I had never watched it. I didn't know how to play the game, so immediately I messed up. But my sister was so competitive. This is the most competitive family. So we couldn't not win. I'm just going to tell you right now.
Spoiler alert.
We had to win. And yeah, it was super fun. And my sister and I are so different that when we did the speedy thing at the end, you have to come up with things. I knew we were going to crush it because like my answer was something like hot dogs. Hers was hamburger. We're so opposite that we would cover up, we would fill in the blanks.
Amazing.
Yeah, it was fun. Oh shit. Hold on, my door.
You get your door because I'm actually going to shout out a couple of podcasts here real quick. So when I got this news that I was being done dirty by the McDermott family, I had just finished a recording with Raymond James Canada. Raymond James Canada has a great podcast called The Advantaged Investor. Chris Cooksey's the host. Hey, Cooksey, saw him earlier today. Basically, if you want valuable perspective for Canadian investors who want to remain knowledgeable, informed, and focused on long-term success, you want the Advantaged Investor podcast from Raymond James Canada. Subscribe today. And while you're subscribing to that fine podcast, there's a wonderful podcast from Moneris called Yes, We Are Open. I had the host, Al Grego, at TMLX11. And thank you, Al, because you helped me so much setting up the audio. Al Grego's been to all 11 Toronto Mike listener experiences. This guy is amazing. He's been telling the stories of Canadian small businesses and their perseverance in the face of overwhelming adversity on this podcast, Yes, We Are Open. And everybody can go to yesweareopenpodcast.com and subscribe to it today. Thank you, Al Grego, for the help. And thank you, Moose Grumpy. Happy 50th birthday. And thank you to everybody who helped out, from Tyler Campbell to Lieve Fumka to Stephanie Wilkinson. So many good people. YYZ Gordon Tom, I just want to say thank you for going and getting the beer from my car because we were running out of Great Lakes. It was so well attended. So wonderful day, TMLX11. Rae Dawn Chong back.
Thank you. I'm back.
You're back. Okay. Last thing, and then I'm going to kind of do a free-for-all, like anything in your heart, on your mind. But I want to ask you about some comments you made about Spike Lee, because you mentioned that he was critical that you weren't how do you represent a race when you said you belong to 6 of them? Do you think this has worked against you?
And you know what? At the time that Spike Lee attacked me, I was doing quite well. And if you notice, he always attacks people who at the time are doing well. He's just one of those guys that's really not a team player. And I just, I have such a strained, not a big fan of Spike Lee, although I like his movies.
Sure.
There's another irritation.
That's like Phil Spector, right? Yeah.
He's like a really good filmmaker. He directs beautiful films. He's really good at it. And he's a little weasel. But he just attacked Soul Man. He never saw Soul Man. I don't know. I just think people who do that are just like petty little fuckers. He's one of those guys that I'm going to beat you up, or I'm going to, and then he talks a big game, and then you get him on the schoolyard or whatever. And they become like, all of a sudden they're running, you can't catch them. He's one of those guys. He's like what I call he'll cut your hair, your braid off, and then he just bolts. And I don't know. He's just not a very brave man. And I don't like him.
And
but I know he makes good movies, and
he's a great filmmaker, sure.
And
sure.
I actually, in some ways, I can see what he saw, and I can see that I didn't. Maybe I'm not Keke Palmer, or I'm not one of the Dark Sisters, but at the end of the day, they're all gorgeous and they're all really good. And I'm really glad that everybody's here now. It's like I just happen to be one of the early ones,
But now that there's so many, mixed race couples, you have I have 2 children who are biracial, right? So their mom is of Filipino descent, and then there's me and my honky tonk Irish background. Whatever's going on there.
You need to do that just to make it stronger. Your kids must be gorgeous.
They are gorgeous, but I always wonder.
Always make better babies. I'm sorry,
but you know where it works against you, and I am, of course, I'm a, you love is love. Like I never, I'm not, love is love, but. When you need an organ donation, it can work against you because you need these matches. There's actually a lot of stories about somebody who's a mix of Filipino and Irish or European background, and we need this liver transplant and trying to find a match. It's not as easy.
No, it's probably not that. It's probably complicated. Yeah, I can imagine.
But I love
knock on wood. I hope I never need a transplant. Oh God.
No, I mean, I don't think anybody roots for a transplant. There's no one out there who's like, I hope I can get a new heart one day.
Maybe Trump is wishing that since he has no heart.
Oh my goodness. How are things down there? Before we say goodbye, and by the way, you're in LA and it sounds like you're going to stay, but if anyone listening has any real estate questions at all, sammy.cohn@properlyhomes.ca. Cohn is Kohn. He'll take care of any real estate questions you have. But how are things? You're a Canadian American, but you're living in the States.
Well, it's really weird. And we did dodge a bullet with the midterms. So we're really excited about that. And we're about to see a lot of excitement with the new Congress coming in. And it's just going to be a raging shit show. So it's going to be really exciting. So get your bag of popcorn and get ready for the Clampets down here in America are about to put on a big show. I think that America needed this upheaval. I think that the new leadership in the Democrats with Hakeem Jeffries and the new whip, Susan, I think her name is Clark. I forget her first name, but we've got some good leadership happening, and I'm excited about the progressive agenda. I think that AOC and stop. And I just think that it's
tell Augie exciting. You're almost done. We're in the last 2 minutes.
Done, Augie. Just give me a minute here. And I think it will be really good for the psyche to see the world's biggest, most corrupt human being go to jail. And everyone says, "Oh, he'll never go to jail." Well, he'll probably run to Qatar or Saudi Arabia, or he will die. But I think that there's no way that he's going to escape these espionage charges. I mean, he might get away with the Jan 6 thing, but I think that the documents, I think that this guy, and then, they know more about him. And I think this Jack Smith guy is like the anti-Mueller in that he's just he's badass. I mean, if they don't knock him off, knock on wood that doesn't happen, because I think he's still in The Hague. I think he's still in the Netherlands. But I get nervous about, his travel and his safety. It's like Fannie Willis down in Georgia. You just know there's just these cracker assassins waiting to do Trump's bidding. And I think that the Stuart Rhodes, the Oath Keepers getting nailed for sedition, I think these are all looking good. I think that I know for me in America, and I think I speak for a lot of people, we are more than ready for these guys to get in trouble. And, the Paul Gosars and the MTG, I mean, these people are just disgusting. And then they're, exploiting and publicly, socially lynching Kanye West because he's so disabled. And everyone's like, oh, he's not mentally ill. I think he's not only mentally ill, but I think this is a kind of social lynching that we're watching because it's he has no idea. He thinks he's being artistic, but he's really being used.
But bipolar does not excuse anti-Semitism.
No. And he's a hateful little troll. So it's really bad, and it's sad, and I don't think it's going to end well. I hope Kim Kardashian has really good security. It's going to be really gnarly. I mean, that's not going to end well. And but I do think as a country, I would like to think that, and I'm that the DOJ has balls and they're going to take care of this guy. Those of us who have
That's
been
misogynist, Rae Dawn Chong. They don't need balls to take care of this, okay? They, you know.
Well, there's a lot of men in charge, and they happen to have a couple sacks. So let's just hope that they're made of titanium.
Here's my wish.
See, a woman like Fannie Willis doesn't care, and neither does Letitia James. And it will probably, you know, they all say that Fannie Willis is going to get him on the election fraud. There's how many? I think there's something like 9 heavy duty things that are just on the verge of cracking.
So, you know, I know you're all into it. You're dropping these names. Some I know, some I don't. But I'm just like, I guess like Charlie Brown. I don't want to go run at this football Lucy's holding and kick it because she's just going to move the football. Like, I'm like, somebody ping me when they put cuffs on this guy because I don't believe it. I don't believe it's ever going to happen. So,
well, they say, a lot of people say, oh, he'll never go. I actually think he'll probably croak. He probably, like they say, all the little TV sidekicks say he's going to do a runner. I think he's going to have a heart attack. I mean, the guy's a drug addict. He's a
Adderall.
He's morbidly, he's a snorter of Adderall.
There's this comic, Noah Kassler, who used to work on The Apprentice, The Celebrity Apprentice.
Yeah.
And he's been on this program, giving me some 411 here on Donald J. Trump.
I mean, allegedly. You're supposed to say
allegedly that he allegedly shits his pants and is addicted
but the guy
to Adderall.
Sniffs like a junkie. I mean, come on. I mean, I grew up on drugs. Yes, I grew up with drugs, around drugs, and all I can tell you is absolutely there's drugs involved. Especially Junior. I mean, what is Rick Wilson calls him? What does he call him? It's Cokie Railsby.
Wow, there's a lot to unpack here. Here's what I hope. I hope that we do this again. Like, I feel like I have a new friend in California, Rae Dawn Chong. I can't believe I'm friends.
I want to hold you and hug you.
Well, come to Toronto and hug the shit out of me.
I want to hug you and hold you through this McDermott.
You know what, since I've talked to you about it, because remember, I got hit with this just before we started this Zoom. Like, I haven't really even, and I even had a phone call. I had a phone call, like, are you okay? Like, are you okay? Because, and I'm like, yeah, am I not supposed to be okay? Like, I'm kind of pissed off that I was done dirty like this, and it's bullshit and not fair.
But it's not over. Just so you know, it's not over. This is just one chapter.
Well, I'd like it to be over because I don't want to be in a family dysfunction in California. It's not my family. Like, I just want to produce good audio content and share it with the world.
What? This is the best copy. This is like Nora Ephron would say, shut up. This is excellent.
So I should lean in? Like, what should I be doing here?
This is so good.
Because my instinct is to ignore it, but you're telling me to lean in.
Lean in. This is so juicy and this is so instructive. And so I keep telling Mary Jo, as hurt as she is by all of this,
she's pretty hurt.
So good. This is like,
but that's her son, right? Like, it's the whole different. You know, this is some guy I've never met.
It's so core and primitive. But let me tell you something.
Yeah.
Where is it written that kids are supposed to be loyal and loving and organized?
Well, it's not written, but
where is it written that your kid is supposed to take your side?
But your kid is supposed to respect you. No, assuming you weren't an asshole.
Where is it written? Where's that? Is there a covenant? Is there a 10?
My son's about to turn 21, and like, to me, it's like I would be devastated. I would be devastated if he did what this Jack did to MJ. Like, I just feel awful for her. Like, I can handle it. Like, come at me. What? I'm just some podcast producer. Like, obviously, I got done dirty and I got hit with some crossfire or whatever. But MJ's the mother here. You know, there's.
I think it's liberating. I think if she's smart, she is smart. Hurt. I think if she's smart, she'll sit back and have a tear or 10. Be hurt, but then I think she should realize I'm liberated. She is now set free. She is free. There's no.
But it's her son.
No, but that's what I'm saying. Now she doesn't have to feel guilty if when he comes to her, which he will, for something, she can say, no. It's like he no longer has. It's like when you take a position like this, you're no longer the kid. It's actually very liberating.
I hope I never have to find out. I just hope. I hope I never have to find out.
It's a hard lesson and it's really painful. But I pray for my friend that she can sit back and see the good that it is.
Well, I hope we have, and I think we will. I hope we have more Rae Dawn Chong on X's and Uh-Ohs with Mary Jo Eustace, and I hope she keeps going because I love the show.
Have you spoken to my sister Precious?
No, I'd love to speak to Precious.
Will you please book her and her partner? I forget her friend's.
Can you introduce me like via email?
I want to because she's so juicy and so
smart.
What
neighborhood?
So
obviously,
sexy.
You don't need to give me too specifics, but what neighborhood of Toronto?
She's in town. She lives in the Danforth. I think.
Of course, East York or Danforth. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, she's so groovy. My sister is really amazing.
I want to talk to Precious Chong.
Mm-hmm. You should. She's a whole thing.
Well, thank you so much for this. I absolutely love this conversation. I needed it.
Give you a big kiss. And I liked our questions, and thank you to all the people who wrote in questions. I feel fabulous.
Oh, one more off the top of my head, just before we say goodbye. What is your favorite film role of all time? Like the role that you're most proud of?
Okay, it's a film that hardly anybody saw. It's the first film of Sandra Bullock, but it's called When the Party's Over. I
love it when I don't see the answer coming. Okay, When the Party's Over. I'll dig that up.
I'm so good in this movie. It's really good.
And what is I know you shouted it out earlier, but what is the active acting that we see Rae Dawn Chong in today?
So right now I'm in the Interview with the Vampire. I'm in the first 4 episodes. I play Louis's mom. Okay. And then I'm also in Impeachment, which was Ryan Murphy's American Crime Story. I did that
of course.
A year and a half
Those are
ago,
great.
2 years ago. And then I do 10 episodes. I play Betty Curry. And then I'm also in a new movie called The Sleeping Negro, which Mubi is distributing, and I play a really good part on that. And then I'm also in this killer film that is so good, and we just won Los Angeles Film Festival. It's called The Mistress, and it's with Chasten Harmon and John Magaro, who was in First Cow, and I play the mom of Chasten, and it's a thriller. It's like a Hitchcockian thriller. It's not gory, but it's super scary and creepy, and it's called The Mistress, and it's directed by Greg Pritikin, and we just won Los Angeles Film Festival as best film jury prize. So I'm stoked. I've got a bunch of good work coming out, and I've got another little thing that I'm in, but I forget. It's like a Edgar Allan Poe thing, but I just show up as a weird nurse. But yeah, it's work. Work is happening.
Have you considered
developing a show? And
what do you do? Okay, you just got a million
I'm developing a television show for myself, a sitcom that I've written, and I'm waiting to hear from some directors and showrunners. And then I also am writing a book on evil.
I hope I'm not in that book. Okay.
No, I write about I'm writing about the lower self and about I think that as a culture we need to know more about how it functions.
All right, I look forward to all this, man. You got me sold. These films being recognized, I got to go check them out. Your whole, IMDb page full of greatness, and you're fascinating. I really think this is just wild.
Thank you, Toronto Mike.
So thank you, Mary Jo Eustace. Take care of
my friend. You're going to talk to my friend tomorrow, right?
You know what? I might WhatsApp call her right now to make sure, because I told her I had to pack up my stuff. I was on Yonge Street in an office.
She's feeling really, 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 really raw. So take care of her.
Well, I'm going to see her tomorrow with Strombo, and I feel bad for her because if I feel like this, imagine if it was my son who did this.
No, for sure. I feel bad on that level because it is always shocking when people you think should be on.
It's like Shakespearean, really. Like the whole thing's very Shakespearean. Like, it's like, anyway, I got to talk to her, make sure she's okay, because I really like her. And I don't know what I did to piss off Dean McDermott, but I just got to be me.
Well, I think that's not the case. I think Dean is just looking at somebody who's at home saying, do this or else. I think he has an or else.
So because you're being cute there, but why don't you just say it?
I think that he was given an ultimatum.
By whom?
Choose. It's me or her.
So somebody,
yeah, I think it's that core and basic. And if he didn't choose, he was going to be out. He would have the boot. I don't, and I'm sorry, but I think it's as basic as that. It's choose.
If you had told me when I started producing podcasts that one day the star of 90210 would mess with my career, I would not have believed you, but here we are. So.
Well, I actually think there's going to be another chapter to this, and you're going to quote me on this, and you're going to get to release all of it because I don't think he has very much going on. So I think that this is just one tiny little blip in the middle of a ocean of action. So. That's me. All right.
Thank you, Rae Dawn. Thank you so much. This was amazing.
Honey. Yes. Bye.
And that brings us to the end of our 1165th show. You can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Toronto Mike. My DMs are always open. Rae Dawn Chong is at Rae_Dawn_Chong. Our friends at Great Lakes Brewery are at Great Lakes Beer. Palma Pasta is at Palma Pasta. Sticker U is at Sticker U. Moneris is at Moneris. Raymond James Canada are at Raymond James CDN. Recycle My Electronics are at EPRA_Canada. Ridley Funeral Home are at Ridley FH. Canna Cabana are at Canna Cabana _ and Sammy Cone Real Estate is at Sammy Cone. Again, that's KOHN. See you all tomorrow.
Just the best that I can. Well, maybe I'm not, and maybe I am. Who gives a damn? Because everything is coming up rosy and green. Yeah, the wind is cold, but the smell of snow warms me today. And your smile is fine, and it's just like mine, and it won't go away. 'Cause everything rosy and gray. Well, I've kissed you in France and I've kissed you in Spain, and I've kissed you in places I better not name, and I've seen the sun go down on Shakra.